My wife's marker, my marker. I guess they're down there on the other end. Yes, the river. I was born in 1866, and when I was just a boy, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted a life on the river. I worked hard and was fortunate enough to live that life. I am Captain E.L. MacGruder. I owned and operated steamboats between 1890 and the 1930s. I commanded vessels on the Chattahoochee, Apalachicola, Flint, Ohio, and Mississippi rivers, as well as the Gulf of Mexico. I was even a partner in the Callahan line. The river was the interstate, and steamboat traffic was very heavy. Bainbridge was a transportation hub because of the river, and was originally larger than Tallahassee or Thomasville. The steamboat business began to grow after the early 1860s when the railroads reached them. The rails didn't reach Bainbridge until 1867. Roads were unpaved. We didn't even have a paved road here in town until around 1910, when the city laid bricks in a few blocks downtown. That modernized Bainbridge by reducing the mud and dust that people doing business in town had to deal with then, but in those days the main means of transportation was by horse or mule, so the manure made a problem still. Not long after Fulton invented steamboats, the first one came to Bainbridge from Apalachicola in 1827. That era lasted just over 100 years. Each boat had a master, some of whom were captains. The master had a lot of people working for him. There was a pilot to steer the boat, a purser to keep the ship's accounts and control supplies on board, 3 engineers and a mate. Under them were deckhands, stokers, cooks, and stevedores. Much of the hard physical work on board was done by Negroes. It took great skill and teamwork for stevedores to load and unload cargo, almost all of it done with human, not mechanical strength. Speaking of pursers, one of them was a woman, the wife of Captain T.B. Whiteside, who was a friend of mine. What did steamboats carry from the port of Bainbridge besides passengers, mail, and packages? Rolling down the river was Tupelo honey, timber, cotton, oats, corn, hay, barrels of corn syrup, and shingles and other products made of cypress. Also on board were the products made from the sticky sap harvested from trees of the vast longleaf pine forest in southwest Georgia, imported all over the world. They were used in medicine. They were used to keep rope from fraying and rotting. Also made from pine sap were products to keep wooden boats watertight. These were referred to as naval stores because of their use in building and maintaining wooden ships. The boats plied back up the river from the Gulf with absolutely everything people could imagine they needed. For example, there were barrels of empty bottles for soft drink bottlers, coffee, sugar, Apalachicola oysters, whiskey, cottonseed, and dishes. There was also fine fabric from Europe, bricks, livestock. As the gasoline engine was used to do more work and cars arrived, the steamboats even brought the gasoline needed to run them. We'd even stop along the way sometimes when we had something to deliver or pick up if someone built a large bonfire high up on a bluff to signal that they wanted to ship something. On the often treacherous river, steamboat work could be dangerous. There were always the dangers of snags that could rip the bottom out of a boat and shifting sandbars that could sink a boat. You had to watch for large log rafts poling down the river with timber for milling and Corps of Engineer dredge boats clearing the channel. And fire, there was always the danger of fire on a wooden boat, especially if the boiler that powered the wheel blew. The papers you read don't mention it, but every time a boat sank, a lot of people drowned, and it wasn't that people just couldn't swim. Even those who could were overcome by the weight of the heavy clothing and shoes worn then, or by the strong river currents. Cargo could fall on them, or they could slip on a wet deck. If they fell in the water, they might not drown, but the wheel that pushed the boat may beat them to death. There was a 15-year-old deckhand sleeping on the cargo. He rolled over in his sleep, fell off the boat, and nearly drowned, and after that, he became a much better hand. There was also a passenger that went sleepwalking off the boat. All stop was my command. We spent hours looking for him, but to no avail. A few days later, another steamboat found his body in the Apalachicola. All they could do was search his pockets and return his valuables to his family. Then they followed the necessary practice of burying him on the bank of the river where he was found. And it had to be our common practice because we had no way of carrying a body on board. In 1908, I lost my first wife, Sally, when she was only 26 years old, leaving the 46-year-old captain with our daughter, Nettie. In 1909, I married Minnie Thomas of Bainbridge, Dr. Peacock's widow. At that time, she lived with her brother and family in a large house with an iron fence on the corner of West and Green Streets. Our family was a treasure to us both, and Nettie honored us by putting the word Mezbah on our stones. A Mezbah is a token, like a ring, to remember a covenant. My beautiful wife, Minnie, died in 1949. I was affectionately known to my good friends as Captain MacGruder. I was 86 years old when I died in 1952. I was humbled that so many of my good friends gathered to say goodbye. Thank you, and I'm a tired old captain now, and I enjoyed it.